Welcome to my video where I'll show you how I enlarged a double-size bed to a full-size or to a queen-size bed. This bed started out as a double. The rails were these. I actually reused one of these rails, and it was a proprietary bed where the mattress actually overlapped the rails, kind of like an insert. And so I've enlarged it to the queen size. I'm going to show you how I did it. Before I continue, though, I want to say that when we decided on how to design this, we decided to allow the actual bed to still remain on its angle iron frame with caster wheels, and that this bed would just fit around that iron frame and eliminate the need of making angle irons that come down deep to hold the box spring. That's what these slots were for. In the old design, the angle irons would actually come down and help support the box spring, and we wanted to avoid that. So let's go ahead and show you what we did. So here's the original headboard. It's too short because the original bed was about 9 5/8 inch narrower than what we actually need to make this a queen size bed. So I went ahead and cut straight on down the center of the headboard so that I could separate the pieces, and the idea being then to come in with a filler piece that will fill in there, and see if I can hold all that for you. We'll fill in there and we'll get that secured. So I'll go ahead and talk about how I cut these joints and so forth to make this a real strong piece of wood when we're all done. Now, just so we didn't have a rather boring filler piece, my client and we thought about doing a carving. So we used the ShopBot, downloaded a Vector Art 3D carving of a bird with some branches and a flower with a circle. Went ahead and carved that, and then using some orange shellac, I darkened the background a little bit so it'll be a little darker. Later on I'll go ahead and I'll shellac this all with blonde. But now you've got a nice interesting centerpiece. Now the idea for attaching the original headboard to the insert is to make the insert thicker. This insert's, well, this is about 3/4 inch material. This insert's about 1 1/16 inches. I've made a 1/4 inch thick lap so that this piece will fit into here, and you'll have about 1/16 of an inch reveal. So it'll fit about like that. Put a little spacer under here to raise it up so you can see better. It'll fit like that, and I'll be able to glue that entire lap joint, and I'll also be able to put floating tenons between the two pieces. I've made marks here on the tape where the Domino machine will cut mortises in each part so that I can have floating tenons in there. So I'll have a strong joint. I'll have 2 inches of lap and 4 big long 2-inch long dominoes. I'll do that on each side, and I should get a fairly strong joint. Now, in using the Domino machine to cut tenons, or to cut mortises for these floating tenons called dominoes, you need to have a reference face. Normally, the machine references on this little flip down rest here, and you can reference to the top of your surface. But in this case, because this centerpiece is a little bit 1/16 of an inch thicker than the original wood that it's going to attach to, I'm using the reference, which is this glue surface that will be gluing to the original piece, so that I can use the bottom of the original piece as the reference for those mortises, and this surface for these mortises. I went ahead and adjusted my fence here so this fits in just beautifully, and I can hold it really good and go ahead and cut the mortises. Also, because the design here dishes in a little bit, I didn't want to take a chance for the tenon to actually pop through the lower part of this dished area, so I've actually shortened the throw of the bit, so it only goes into the material about 7/8 of an inch, which is just enough where I can have these dominoes fully bottom out. So I have to be very careful that I don't put too much glue in that they can't fully bottom out, because they need to. In order to cut the domino mortises into the original headboard, I had to get a little inventive, because, you know, like I said, I'm using the bottom as the reference instead of the top as a reference. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and set this onto my saw table. I'm using the saw fence as a backstop, and I'm using my 50-pound weight, which is always handy to have, to weight this down, so that then I can take the domino machine and line it up. I'll move my weight a little bit. Line it up with the marks, and then just go ahead and domino in, and my reference is the table, which is the same as the bottom of the piece. And so when this piece fits into the insert that I made, it should be a good fit. The tenon should line up properly, and I should have a good glue surface on the bottom here with the new piece. So first I'll put the dominoes into the headboard piece, because then if they're a little long, all I got to do is take this whole headboard piece and put it in the radial arm saw and just kind of trim off a 1/16 or whatever I need to trim off of the dominoes if they're a little too long. Because remember, I didn't go full depth into the center filler piece, so I may have to trim the dominoes just slightly. We'll find out. Don't want to use too much glue in here, but I don't want to have a glue starved joint either, because too much glue and the domino won't be able to go in all the way, and I really do need it to do that. Clean off the excess, because it may be a while before I actually put this whole thing together, and I don't want to have little glue globs there preventing these pieces from coming home all the way. Let's go ahead and measure that. Looks like we're going to be pretty good. It's about 13/16, and the holes that I have for the dominoes here are 13/16. So I might just shave off just a slight bit, just to give a little extra room behind this for the glue, but it looks like it's going to work out. Now you can get a better idea how this works. I haven't glued it, obviously. I'm getting ready, but you've got the dominoes that'll slide together, and you've got this overlapping joint where we can glue that joint, we can glue the dominoes, and that'll make a real solid 2 inches of connection. Actually, more like 3 inches of connection if you consider the full extent of the dominoes. Now this bed had a proprietary mattress system. The mattress box spring actually had a rabbet in it, so it fit over the top of the rails, a kind of an insert. And so we're using conventional queen mattress, 80 inches long, 60 inches wide. So I had to make the side rails and the end rails longer. Now this bed was assembled using bed bolts. This is a bed bolt. Bed bolt goes through the post, the end post, through a hole, and into a hole in the tenon in the rail, like this. And then it engages a square nut that is set into a cutout in the rail. Now I've taken the nut out to reuse it, but that's how this would be assembled. This bed bolt would then draw the rail up tightly against the post. So I cut out the nuts so I could reuse them, and this is the old piece of rail that's too short. And I had to make new rails, so we used cherry to give a nice contrast to the mahogany of the rest of the bed. And because this, I could make new rails, I went ahead and made this rail a little bit higher so I could get better bearing strength on the shoulders here of the tenon, whereas the original tenon was completely through the material. You only had 2 shoulders. Now I get 4 shoulders. And if you can, I'm sure you can't see it, but I've got a little insert of cherry that I put here where I had cut out for the nut. I inserted the nut, then put a piece of cherry in there, and cut that down flush. And now the bed bolt can screw right in there, and I can assemble the posts to the rails. So there you have it. This is how I've expanded this bed. I've cut down through the headboard, made my insert piece here, made longer rails, used one of the old side rails to become the head rail. You can see the indentations here where formerly there was a piece of angle iron that would go down, bend like this to hold the mattress. No need to use new lumber there. This would work fine. And did a coat of lacquer over the whole thing, touched up a few places where there were some dings, and looks like we have a bed that is pretty much a new looking bed, although it's really 50 years old.